Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. Remember Oscar Pistorius, the Blade Runner? Now he wants out of prison, but to get there, he's got one big task. He has to meet with the parents of the girlfriend he shot and killed on Valentine's Day 2013. More on that coming up. But first, I feel like I have to whisper when I say this because you know how one person in particular will respond. But it does seem there are now signs emerging that some major Republicans are considering trying to dethrone Donald Trump from atop the Republican Party leading into 2024. A poll earlier this year by Trump's 2020 pollster, Fabrizio and Lee, found that while 57% of Republicans said they would support the former president, almost 50% of Republicans said they would prefer a different candidate. While a Pew Research survey released earlier this month found 54% of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents want someone else. No one can quite say it for fear of the former president's wrath, but little by little, possible opposition seems to be peeking out from the shadows. Take, for example, comments made this past weekend by Christie speaking at a Republican forum in Las Vegas. The former New Jersey governor took a not-so-subtle swipe at Donald Trump.
Let me make one thing really clear. The only reason to affiliate with a political party, the only reason to support a political party is to win. Nothing else matters. If you don't win, you can't govern. And winning campaigns are always the campaigns that look forward and not backwards. I'll tell you a story. Yeah, that deserves applause because if we don't get it, we're going to lose.
Forward, not backwards. The message there is obvious, and it was heard loud and clear by the person it was directed to, the former president, who responded in a statement, quote, Christie was just absolutely massacred by his statements that Republicans have to move on from the 2020 election fraud. Everybody remembers that Chris left New Jersey with a less than 9% approval rating, a record low, and they don't want to hear this from him. Christie's no dummy. He knew full well he was going to draw a reaction from Trump, but that didn't stop him. And after Trump responded, Christie fired back with an even more direct shot.
I'm not going to get into a back and forth with Donald Trump, but what I will say is this. When I ran for re-election in 2013, I got 60% of the vote. When he ran for re-election, he lost to Joe Biden. I'm happy to have that comparison stand up.
Just as he's ratcheting up his criticism of Donald Trump, the former New Jersey governor is sitting down with, of all places, CNN for a 1-hour special. Now, he won't be finding many Republican primary voters there, but he's clearly trying to build up his support, and he isn't alone in wanting to see Trump ousted from the top of the GOP heap. Other recent commentary from some longtime Trump supporters, or at least critics of Democrats, suggests there could be more to this, like conservative talk show host Dave Rubin. Pretty big deal among the MAGA set. His words hold a lot of sway with Trump fans, which is why it was surprising to hear him explicitly call for the former president not to run in 2024.
What I would prefer to happen is that Trump acts as the advocate, keep doing the rallies, keep fighting the media, keep doing all the dirty work, be the bodyguard so that, say, a DeSantis, Tim Scott ticket maybe could get through. Let DeSantis, who I think is 43 years old, he's done an incredible job in Florida. He's willing to fight. But let Trump do the dirty work. Let him take the hits from the media. Let him draw the people to the rallies and go be the statesman, DeSantis. I know Florida wouldn't be happy to potentially lose him.
Trump. That doesn't sound like Trump. No, it doesn't sound. I know. So hey, Don, if you watch Megyn Kelly's show, and I have no doubt that you do, my personal message to you is think about putting your ego in check for the first time in your life.
And even Fox and Friends, arguably Trump's very favorite cable news show, and also the one he loves to hate, is offering advice that the former president definitely will not listen to about the prospect of a 2024 bid.
He's got to tone it down. It can't be the same way. Everyone's got to get better. I think the president's got to get better. Had to have learned for the last 4 years.
The conservative media clearly dropping hints of an opening for a new nominee a couple of years out. And other major Republican candidates clearly trying to tiptoe around the issue. The New York Times' Maggie Haberman reported that Trump's former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, told multiple people he's running regardless of whether Trump is in the field. And it's worth noting that Mike Pence also spoke at the same conference as Christie and has been heavily rumored to be eyeing a 2024 bid of his own. You'd have to go back to 1960 for the last time either party nominated a non-incumbent candidate who didn't face heavy opposition in the primaries. That was Richard Nixon, who was a sitting vice president, and he lost. Joining us now is Jim Swift. He's a senior editor at The Bulwark. Jim, thanks very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. All right.
Yeah,
so
thanks for having me.
This is obviously a sensitive topic among Republicans, and they can't talk about it overtly. It has to be sort of something they talk around or they talk sort of theoretically about, but never in attacking Donald Trump. Lay out for me how this could possibly occur, meaning if there is going to be serious opposition to Donald Trump, how does it go down?
Well, I mean, I think Christie is, one of the first to kind of breach that. Republicans are happy that Glenn Youngkin won the governorship here in Virginia, where I live. But Glenn Youngkin, I don't think is a strategy that can be replicated because he won via this drive-through car convention. He didn't have to face primary voters. I couldn't go to the church down the way and vote for Glenn Youngkin or Amanda Chase or somebody else. And he had to tiptoe this, tight wire to try and appease Trump voters, which he did with his election integrity stuff. And then, he also had to try and appease suburban moderates in Northern Virginia, where I live. Yeah. And he was able to pull that off. You're not going to get more Glenn Youngkins. We're going to see more primaries, and whether it's at the 2024 level or if it's the midterms in 2022. There's this dichotomy here where candidates are basically faced with a choice. Do you want to please Mitch McConnell or do you want to please Donald Trump? Because you can't please both. I want to ask you about that because you wrote an article recently entitled "The Trump versus McConnell War is Upon Us." And I think when you look at the party, most people are going to say, does McConnell have any shot to win that war? I think he does because Mitch McConnell likes winning. I mean, Christie made a reference to that in the clip that you played in the intro. Donald Trump has only won one election. Mitch McConnell has won a ton of elections, not just for himself, but for the people he's handpicked. And usually the National Republican Senatorial Committee, the NRSC, which is their goal was to elect Republicans, which Mitch McConnell basically controls, even though he's not the chairman of it. But he, as the minority leader and leader of Senate Republicans, he's got a really good record. The times where he's lost, it was times where people like Jim DeMint, and during the Tea Party years, there we got the Sharon Engels, the Christine O'Donnells, and we got these losers. So how does it work? Meaning, if McConnell is the other part of the Republican Party you're talking about, and it's the war between Trump and McConnell, does someone like Chris Christie go and try and kiss the McConnell ring and say, sir, this is the beginning of my effort. I'm going to need your support. And can McConnell seriously think about supporting someone other than Donald Trump? Yeah, I mean, look, Mitch McConnell is a prolific fundraiser. And, the question that Republicans who want to get elected in this upcoming midterm election or Republicans who want to run in 2024, look, we have to be honest here about those who might potentially run in 2024 as presidential candidates. Everyone talks about Ron DeSantis, for example. Donald Trump and Trumpism is all about fealty to Donald Trump. And, people like Nikki Haley and others are trying to demonstrate that they are still Trumpy. Chris Christie clearly made that break. But when it comes to lower offices, like House and Senate races, is Donald Trump going to raise you a ton of money, or is he just going to come and, take all the credit? Like Donald Trump claimed that Glenn Youngkin won only because of him. I mean, do candidates want that? I mean, did Donald Trump raise a ton of money for Glenn Youngkin? I don't think so. All right. So I got to just ask you, sort of, to summarize again, is this real? I mean, is this a real thing? Because I think that most people just think there's no way
if Donald Trump wants to run in 2024, if there's going to be any serious opposition to him. But it sounds like you're saying you think there really could be.
I mean, I think in Chris Christie, but keep in mind, Chris Christie was get on the plane, Chris. You know, like he knifed Marco Rubio there at the very end, and then Donald Trump threw him out like a empty sack of hamburgers. I think some people will try. Like they did in 2020. I mean, there were 3 Republican candidates who wanted to challenge Donald Trump, but Ronna Romney McDaniel and the RNC and the state parties just shut down all these primaries. The thing I think that is what will be interesting to see is, there was reporting that Donald Trump was debating starting his own third party and leaving the Republican Party. And apparently Ronna Romney McDaniel said, if you do that, the RNC isn't going to pay your legal bills anymore. And so he didn't. Donald Trump is hardly a Republican, but what is abundantly clear is he has a stranglehold over the Republican Party.
So it's going to be tough. I mean, the bottom line is it's going to be tough for anyone. But look, yes. I think Chris Christie is the first one. Obviously, it'll depend a lot on what happens in 2022. If Republicans overperform in 2022, that may make it harder. If they underperform, they could say, oh, we need to make some changes here. We shall see, but it's super interesting to think about it. Jim Swift, thank you very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, the case against Andrew Cuomo appears to be crumbling. New documents are released, but is New York AG and current gubernatorial candidate Leticia James politicizing the investigation? Coming up. The office of New York State Attorney General Leticia James released transcripts Wednesday of interviews with 10 women who accused former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo of sexual harassment. And while they certainly don't paint a flattering portrait of the former governor, it also created more questions about the criminal complaint that's been filed against him by the sheriff and about the politicization of the process by New York Attorney General Leticia James. Back in August, the Attorney General summarized the findings of the report. And her office concluded that the former governor sexually harassed multiple women and in doing so violated, she said, quote, federal and state law. Except the report and the documents don't entirely back that up. A lot of it was creepy and weird, but not a violation of law. Considering how much heat Bill Barr got from the left for mischaracterizing the Mueller report, is it fair to ask why none of those same critics of the AG have questioned her summary of it? All the while, Leticia James has maintained the investigation into the former governor has been totally independent. And yet, back in September, she also said this. It was so important to stand up and to basically protect young women, these young women who went to Albany because they believed in public service, when they came into my office and they told me about the fact that Albany was toxic, how they were harassed. Investigation's independent, and yet the Attorney General spoke to them herself? Look, here's my take. It really seems Leticia James overstated what she found, but that's history. The bigger issue is what is happening today. Albany County Sheriff Craig Apple held a press conference detailing the forcible touching charge against the former governor, even though the DA who would prosecute the case was shocked at the news. James had immediately put out a release celebrating it, and then the same day as the press conference, announced her bid for governor. And she celebrated all these allegations as part of her campaign launch.
I'm Leticia James, and I've spent my career guided by a simple principle: stand up to the powerful on behalf of the vulnerable, to be a force for change.
The message is obvious. She should be elected because she's standing up to powerful Andrew Cuomo, who she wanted to replace as governor, and Donald Trump, who she's still investigating. It's a separate issue about the ethical questions surrounding the comments she's made about that investigation. But let me be very clear. This is not a defense of Andrew Cuomo, nor is this an indictment of any of these women or any of their claims. Because even if you were to take every one of these claims at face value, what I'm saying here still applies. This is about an attorney general with political aspirations who I fear is using the law as a tool for her to achieve them. Joining us now is Henry Rossoff. He covers politics for WPIX here in New York, longtime observer of the governor, and Leticia James. Henry, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Before I ask you about these new transcripts that have been released, let me just ask your take on my overall concern here about the feeling that a lot of this is politicized on the part of Leticia James.
Well, certainly, if you ask anyone in the orbit of former Governor Andrew Cuomo, that is the argument they've been making for some time. You'll see his attorney out there, Rita Glavin, often making this argument, his former senior advisor, now spokesman on the outside of government office, Rich as a party, certainly has made this claim. James was very careful when this investigation was going on. That's something you really didn't get to. What you spoke of was after the report came out. She has been less careful. And frankly, you know, she is a politician. She's a legal mind. She's the state's top law enforcement officer, but she's also a politician. So to try and take credit for something done within her office's purview, I think is maybe the best way to put it, but not really take credit for it is the fine line that she knew she was going to have to walk if she's running for governor. And I think voters will have to decide if this investigation was truly independent.
Well, but talking about what's happening now, though, all right? Because putting aside for a moment, and again, I'm going to come back to those transcripts, but the Sheriff Apple announcement of this forcible touching charge, right after that, Leticia James, like within minutes, issues a statement saying, you know, congratulating the sheriff. That case is completely falling apart. That's an area where I do have expertise because as a legal matter, that is a mess. And
the
my
DA
prediction is that
correct.
Yeah. I mean, even the DA is saying that when the DA comes forward and says it's defective, it's going nowhere. And again, the next day, Leticia James announces she's running for governor. Look, my theories consistently are that when politicians use the criminal law in particular, not just civil law, the criminal law in particular, I get very nervous about them sort of taking credit, using the power of the criminal law, et cetera. And it feels wrong here, the timeline between the sheriff and Leticia James and her announcing for governor, et cetera. But let me ask you, I've now sort of spoken my piece on this, but let me ask you about these transcripts. Why did they come out now? I mean, it does seem that there was a lot of pressure. I know the Daily News had been pushing very hard to get these released. Others, why do you think they're coming out now? Why was there a delay?
Well, let's talk about the stated reason from the Attorney General's office and then the potentially political reason. She says because this prosecution is moving forward in Albany, and we've already talked about some of the problems with that prosecution, but because it's moving forward, some of this was bound to come out as a legal right to the former governor. So that's the stated reason the Attorney General gave for releasing the transcripts. Now the political reason, with the investigation up there in Albany having problems, being potentially defective, according to the DA, is that this just makes the governor look bad any way you slice it. You have a state trooper calling him creepy. You have her saying he offered her a tour of the executive mansion and thought that he wanted to show her more than the executive mansion. And then you have the governor not being able to recall exactly how many women he had kissed on the cheeks or on the lips and how close he got to the behind. It's all very unseemly. It is arguably sexual harassment, although no district attorney has brought that charge, even under the new 2019 law that Cuomo himself signed.
Right, but Henry, sexual harassment in and of itself isn't a crime. It's about sexual assault. It's about, I mean, you can try and have someone lose their job. You can have them sued over sexual harassment, but it's not a crime. And again, that's my concern. My concern got elevated when this criminal charge was brought. And to me, that fundamentally changed the game here. This was no longer about getting rid of the guy. This was no longer about sort of holding him to account in that way. Now we're talking about using the criminal law. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I had to just make that clarification.
No problem. And I would add that you have another venue and another track that this was going down before the governor resigned, and that was the impeachment track. And I will say that the Assembly Judiciary Committee here in New York is going to meet next week to review a report that they are going to put out that we expect to be very similar to the Leticia James report on the potential sexual harassment issues. But I'll remind everyone they're looking at some other things, like potential abuse of power, like him using his office to write and promote a $5 million book to get VIP testing during the height of COVID for friends and family members. And also, let's not forget, because this is a big deal, especially to Republicans and anyone with an older family member in this state, the deaths in the nursing homes and the reporting of those deaths, that is a very, very serious issue that's taken the back burner here, and it's not to be dismissed or belittled.
Yep, we will see where that takes us. But again, I hope that in particular when it comes to the use of the criminal law, that, boy, I think if anyone's becoming politicized, and look, you're very influential in New York politics, et cetera, I hope you're holding them to account. So, Henry Rossoff, thanks very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
Coming up, Vice President Kamala Harris making headlines not over immigration policy, but for a faux, get that, French accent, or her attempt at one. Not surprisingly, cable news is all over it. Coming up next. Time for our Mediaite Moments, where we check in on the day's bias, buzz, and bull in the world of cable news and beyond. Kamala Harris is wildly unpopular right now. She has just a 28% approval rating. Even 40% of Democrats polled don't approve of the job she's doing as VP. That's rough. Politics is rough. It's rough business. And while there are real reasons to disagree with her, you wouldn't think they would need to manufacture outrage.
VP Kamala Harris getting a lot of attention over these comments she made in Paris, and it's not what she said, but the way she said it. All right, roll it, listen, judge for yourself.
We campaign with the plan, uppercase T, uppercase P, the plan. And then the environment is such that we're expected to defend the plan.
Well, critics say it sounded like she was using a French accent when she addressed the scientists there in Paris. What do you think?
It sounds awkward. I'll agree. It made me shudder a little. But of course, for Fox News, this is some European gold.
I don't know. They have an image makeover person that came into the White House. And I do think it would be really wonderful to see, like, who is it? Will the real Kamala Harris please stand up and just be yourself?
The Biden administration continues to find new and creative ways to embarrass America on the world stage, even after relations with France deteriorated following a botched submarine deal back in September. Vice President Kamala Harris apparently thought that she could, I guess, smooth things over with a fake accent.
That's all you got? I'm betting they can make Accent Gate even more dire and infuriating and outrageous.
She's out of control. This was supposed to be the rehabilitation tour, and then she goes in and talks about the plan. With the plan, right? With an accent. Does she not know how stupid she looks, right? And she's not going to get ruthlessly mocked for being such an idiot.
Okay. Now let's hop over to Newsmax, where their business model is to try to outrage even the typical Fox viewer. So they needed to up the ante.
She needs help. She needs help. I'm not kidding. Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, somebody close to her has to help her. She obviously has, I think she has a drug or alcohol problem. I think.
She's an out of control, embarrassing, idiot drug user because of the plan. There's much to criticize Kamala Harris for, but this just feels like the outrage du jour. See what I did there with the French? That's our wrap-up of the day's media bias, buzz, and bull. Our Mediaite Moments up next. Remember Oscar Pistorius, the Blade Runner, convicted of shooting and killing his girlfriend Riva Steenkamp? He's now up for parole, but if he wants to get out, he's got to meet with her parents first, face to face. Remember Oscar Pistorius, the South African runner dubbed the Blade Runner, who qualified for the 2012 Olympics using a pair of prosthetic legs and would later be convicted for the 2013 murder of his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp? Well, he's now up for parole, and as a part of the parole process in that country, Steenkamp's parents have the option of a face-to-face meeting with Pistorius first, which in South Africa is known as restorative justice. Pistorius shot Riva on Valentine's Day 2013 through a locked bathroom door. He claimed it was an accident, that he'd fired his gun believing an intruder had broken into his home, but the event suggested they had been fighting. The trial would captivate South Africa and the world. I covered this trial extensively. At times, in the courtroom, Pistorius was unable to control his emotions.
Why are you getting emotional now?
I did not fire at Reva.
In court, Reva's father said Pistorius needed to pay for what he'd done.
Oscar has to pay for what he did. He has to pay for it.
Now, he was convicted initially of culpable homicide, known in the United States generally as sort of like manslaughter. But a higher court overturned the conviction, changed it to murder a year later. That couldn't happen here. The 34-year-old has served half of his 15-year sentence, making him eligible for parole. Now, Reva's parents have the chance to question Pistorius. Steenkamps have previously said they want to challenge Pistorius on why he did it. Joining me now is Tim Rohan. His podcast of Oscar Pistorius' False Idol can be heard on Religion of Sport, where he is also a senior writer. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. So
thanks for having me.
Talk to us about this restorative justice piece. Is this actually going to happen, that he's going to have to meet with her parents in order to get parole?
Yeah, no, it's part of the South Africa parole process. They have what's called victim-offender dialogue, where the victim, or in this case, the victim's family, has the option to meet with the offender, have a face-to-face meeting. And I guess the idea is that the offender has a chance to take responsibility for what they did, acknowledge their actions, perhaps apologize, and maybe reconcile with the victim's family. And, you know, the idea of restorative justice in general is the victim and the offender coming together and talking about the crime or what happened. And there's some history of this in South Africa, going back to apartheid. After the end of apartheid, they had the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where victims and perpetrators of violence during apartheid gave testimony about the horrors of apartheid. And so that's, yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Is he going to actually fess up? I mean, he has consistently and again maintained that this was just a horrible accident. He thought someone was robbing his home, etc. It would seem to me that the Steenkamps are only going to be satisfied if he finally admits that they were in a fight, right?
I don't know if he's going to fess up. You know, this week I spoke to both Pistorius' lawyer and the Steenkamps' lawyer, and I know that the Steenkamps want to have this meeting and that Pistorius also wants to have the meeting. His lawyer told me that he wants to apologize to the Steenkamps and that he's wanted to meet with them ever since he went into prison. I don't know what would satisfy them. I know, you know, June Steenkamp has said in the past, according to her lawyer, that she has forgiven Pistorius, whereas Barry Steenkamp battles with that a little bit more. I know he wants to meet with him. I'm sure he has questions for him. You know, when the time comes, when Pistorius does have his parole hearing, the Steenkamps are going to have a chance to state their case, whether in person or make a statement in writing about how they feel about Oscar being up for parole and whether he should be released. And I asked their lawyer, were they leaning a certain way? And what I was told was maybe it's too early to tell right now, but she said that the Steenkamps are loving and compassionate people, and that first they want to have that face-to-face meeting. And I'm sure they have questions that they want to ask Oscar.
Wow. And now I have to admit that I did cover this case as it was happening. I have not followed it much since then. How has his prison time been? Do we know anything about Oscar Pistorius' time behind bars?
Yeah, there's been reports here and there. He's currently at Atteridgeville Correctional Center. His father gave interviews a while ago saying that Pistorius was leading a Bible study and was spending his time gardening. And so there's been little information here and there. But yeah, I mean, but this news, Dan, that he's up for parole comes as a little bit of a shock. There was a lot of people that were of the opinion, not the opinion, but of the belief that he wouldn't be eligible for parole until March 2023. And then this week it came out that not only is that wrong, but he's actually eligible right now, and he has been eligible since July of this year. And so this completely caught Steenkamp family by surprise. And there was actually, his parole hearing was actually scheduled for the end of October. and they canceled it because this face-to-face meeting hadn't happened yet. So this is all happening kind of fast and really caught the steam camps by surprise.
And it does sound like they're going to have a lot of power here, right? I mean, they're going to be able to either recommend, and I'm not saying they have to accept it, but they're either going to be able to recommend that, yeah, we're on board with him being released, or we're not.
Yeah, no, it's going to factor into, they're going to get a chance to state their case, and it's going to factor into the parole board's decision. Is it going to be, it's not the be all end all, but I was told it is a factor, what they say there.
Tim, one of the things that you've said on your podcast is that Reva has largely been forgotten. I got 20 seconds left. Just remind us a little bit about Reva.
Well, she was just a kind, empathetic, smart person. Everyone knows that she was a successful model. She was also a law student and had plans on returning to law. And when she became a model and had some success, she was starting to use her platform to speak out about issues she cared about, like gender-based violence. And she was going to spend her life doing that. And that's part of the tragedy here, that, she lost her life so young.
She had everything going for her. This was truly a tragedy. And I have to tell you that after having covered just about every minute of this case, it was clear to me that the prosecution had the much stronger argument than did the defense about what had happened here. Tim Rohan, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
Have you seen Leilani? 17-year-old has not been seen in more than 8 months. Police believe she's actually in danger. How you can help find her up next. Each Friday on the show, we ask for your help to find a missing child. This week, we focus on Leilani Brown, a 17-year-old from Cape Coral, Florida. Leilani has been missing since October 3rd. Now, according to police, Leilani is in the foster care system and was last seen at the foster care facility in Cape Coral. She's 5'6", tall, 5'6" tall, has long braided hair. Joining me now to talk more about this investigation is Brad Dennis, the president of the Kloss Kids Search Center for Missing and Trafficked Children. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. All right, walk us through what we know about Leilani's disappearance.
Well, what we know is, speaking to her caseworkers, is that she's had an extremely rough childhood just growing up. But things were looking up for her. She was just placed in this youth shelter. This was going to be a temporary placement. There was a whole adoption process that was taking place for her. It looked like for once she was going to get an incredible forever home, and then she went missing. And law enforcement is absolutely concerned about her.
Now, why are they so concerned? Why do they believe she could be in danger?
Well, it's just the amount of time, granted October 3rd to now, but a month out there and really absolutely no understanding of where she has been at. And just, that whole atmosphere of these kids going out here on the streets, the longer they stay out there, the more likelihood that something bad is going to happen, especially exploitation nowadays.
Yeah. Any leads or sightings?
There's been a couple of sightings. Most of the sightings are centered around Central and South Florida, so that's where the real focus is. But I really think that this is an incredible case for your viewership because she has connections from South Florida all the way up to New Jersey, so really anywhere along the eastern seaboard.
And the Cape Coral Police giving you any other information that's useful for the viewers?
Yeah, I mean, just today, we talked to them again today, and again, they just wanted to reiterate the fact that this was a very serious case for them. The investigators have been busily searching for her. Matter of fact, we've been exchanging phone calls back and forth with different potential leads. I know that they really are concerned about her safety.
All right. Brad Dennis, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And again, a reminder, if you know anything about Leilani's whereabouts, call 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-5678. Coming up.
Cheers, Canine. Stop right there, dude. Stop right there.
A 911 call leads a deputy to a man suspected of trying to break into homes. It takes a terrifying turn when the suspect turns on the deputy and attacks him with a rock. It's coming up next. Time Time for our police cam segment showing the dangers officers face across the country every day. Police near Sacramento responded to a 72-year-old woman found bloody on a street near Sacramento, California. She said her grandson attacked her as they were driving and pushed her out of the car. He drove away speeding through a neighborhood. The driver, Darren Stone, hit a brick pillar in a fence, ended up in a ditch in front of a home. When a man who lives in that house tried to help, Stone started punching him. Stone started walking toward that man's home when the victim's wife made this chilling 911 call.
Get out! Go get the gun!
Hello, 911.
Yes, please call the police!
Hey, ma'am, I can't understand a sheriff. I need you to stop screaming, please.
He's killing my husband! People, good road! There was a guy, he went in the ditch, and my husband went to see if he was okay, and he got out, he was beating the crap out of him.
Out of your husband? He was attacking your husband?
Yes.
Stone walked from the scene to another home where he tried to open the front door, but it was locked. He then grabbed a rock from the front yard, rang the doorbell, and appeared to be waiting to attack anyone who answered. Instead, a woman in that house also called 911.
Well, there was a man that just came to my front door on Maple Glen Road, and he knocked at my front door, and then he picked up a rock and then stood there a while and tried the door. Couldn't get in, but then he walked off.
The suspect left the yard with the rock in his hand. He tried to open the locked security gate at a third house as a Sacramento County Sheriff's deputy arrived. Now, I want to warn you, what happened next is difficult to watch.
Sheriff's Canine, stop right there, dude. Stop right there. Stop right there. You're gonna get bit by my dog. Stop right there. Get your hands up, bro. Unit 13, shots fired, shots fired.
We're seeing the attack again. This is from a different angle. It's from surveillance video. The suspect hit the deputy so hard with the rock, it bounced and landed several feet away. The deputy was dazed but fired his weapon. The first two shots missed. Stone kept attacking until the deputy fired 3 more times and Stone fell to the ground. Stone survived and was taken to the hospital. Was then charged with multiple felonies, including attempted murder and carjacking. He's due in court on Monday. The deputy suffered a concussion and was slated to return to work. Joining me now is Joseph Sullivan, former Philadelphia Deputy Police Commissioner. Thanks very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. All right, so as the deputies are approaching this situation, they know some of what's going on, right? They've gotten some of the reports. They have the information. Based on what they know, they have to be very careful. And you see here, you know, people always accusing police officers of firing too quickly. Here's a situation where the officer has his weapon out, could have fired at him, but didn't.
Yeah, exactly, Dan. He has some limited information about what occurred at that particular site, but he is not aware of what occurred in terms of when the suspect attacked his own grandmother and broke her arm. Now, that's another jurisdiction, another radio ban, and it happened only 8 minutes prior. So this officer is trying to take a very measured response. Detain the male, investigate further, ensure he is the correct male, and suddenly he's attacked with a rock in the head so hard that it sends the rock flying. Now the officer is dazed. His priority has to be to protect his weapon, because by protecting his weapon, he's protecting his life, he's protecting the residents behind him, and he's protecting the life of his canine partner, and that has to be his priority, and that's why he did go to deadly force. And even after firing a shot, and that doesn't even deter that individual. Second shot doesn't deter him either. It's not until the suspect is hit that his attack on the officer stops, at which time backup officers arrive.
So the suspect had previous convictions. He was on probation. I don't think the deputies didn't know he'd assaulted his grandmother. So they've got, as we pointed out, that kind of limited information here. What do they have to think about on the approach based on what they know?
Well, things never go the way that you would like them to in a perfect world. As the deputy pulls up, he sees the suspect, but the suspect is able to go around to the other side of his car. We always look at people's hands in policing. We always want to know where their hands are and what's in their hands. So the officer's unable to do that, and suddenly the suspect comes out behind the car and launches that attack. And we know the difference between of action versus reaction, and the officer takes that solid hit in the head. This suspect has a history of assaulting police officers. That's one of the reasons that he's on intensive reporting probation. And he has a history of violence against women and children. And we saw what happened to the neighbors. Thank God that woman looked through the peephole of her door or through her ring camera and didn't open that door.
I was just about to say the same thing, that it is really fortunate that she was able to use, whatever security system she had out there to take a look at who was ringing her, knocking on her door, etc. Now, the suspect attacked a deputy with a rock. He picked up from a yard. Let's listen to that part again.
Stop right there. Get your hands up, bro.
Shots fired, shots fired.
Now, I have to say, I have watched an enormous amount of policing, and you have been involved in far more than I have watched. But I will say that I was a little surprised that because of the canine threat, that the suspect didn't back off. I mean, typically, when you threaten a canine, you'll see people back off pretty quickly, and if they don't, then very often the canine will go in.
I'll be very interested to see the results of your analysis and blood test on this individual, just for the reason that you said. Most people are more scared of that dog than they are of the firearm. And my experience in 38 years is that when you threaten someone to release a canine, they're either going to surrender or they're going to flee. And he just continued to attack without any fear whatsoever. And even, again, gunfire did not even deter him from the attack. So,
the good news
saved lives that night.
And the good news is, again, that officer is okay and slated to go back to work, which was such a relief. Joseph Sullivan, out of time. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on the show. That does it for us tonight. News Nation Prime starts right now. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.